Draenor Village is home to a few of the game's stranger characters, a settlement in the shadow of the haunted Draenor Manor and a stone's throw from the Wizard's Tower. It's no surprise that this village is the home of a witch, Aggie, who's involved in a couple of quests. Most notably, she'll make dye for the player for use in goblin diplomacy. Aggie's house is a small square room, which strangely has a spawn for both cheese and tomatoes, probably so players can use them to make plain pizza. However, these spawns have a little backstory, revealed in the first post bag from the hedge. The cheese apparently was the result of Aggie's self-replenishing cheese spell version 12, one of the first spells learned by the witch. The tomato too was the result of a spell, though not one she intended to cast. While summoning a lesser demon, something went wrong, resulting in the tomato being spawned instead. They're both red, I guess? Either way, she warns that the tomatoes sometimes bite, which would make sense if they're a sort of half-summoned lesser demon, and can now protect her from evil Bob, who sneaks up behind her. East of Aggie's house, but still in Draenor Village, we find Ned, a retired sailor involved in quests like Dragon Slayer and Prince Ali Rescue. Ned is useful in that he'll craft handmade rope for the player from wool, if given 15 GP or 4 balls of it. Or for an extra coin, players can buy rope from his shop, Ned's Handmade Rope. However, we learn from Joffrida on Natisnot that she trades her rope for wool with a sailor in the Draenor area. And if pressed on this, Ned admits that his rope isn't actually handmade from wool, and that he trades for it. He'll try and buy the player's silence with a free, handmade rope. One of the stranger interactions in the game happens if the player decides, for whatever reason, to use a herring on a tree. Instead of what you'd expect, nothing interesting happens, there's a unique response. This is not the mightiest tree in the forest. Being an English game, RuneScape has its fair share of references to Monty Python, a comedy group who made films such as Life of Brian and The Holy Grail. In the latter, King Arthur and his group are stopped in the forest by the knights who say Nih, who try and make the group complete bizarre tasks to pass through, like bringing them a small shrubbery and later,
"You must cut down the mightiest tree in the forest with a herring!"
Arthur responds with,
"It can't be done!"
and learns that the knights can't stand the word it, which allows them to pass. If in RuneScape we find the mightiest tree in the forest, of course being the Grand Tree in Tree Gnome Stronghold, the chat box mimics Arthur, saying it can't be done. As well as tiny bits of lore and references, RuneScape's world is full with strange little bits of content that appear to have been forgotten, or serve no purpose. For whatever reason, in the Forgotten Cemetery in level 30 Wilderness, a graveyard infested with monsters like Anku, skeletons and zombies, a single man walks around, the same sort that can be found in Lumbridge and other towns. His drops are identical, as are his pickpocket rewards. There's no explanation why he's found in this haunted cemetery in the wilderness. Finally, there's a larger bit of content added to the game all the way back in 2002 that seems like it should serve a larger purpose, but doesn't. The game has a few magical towers, like the Wizard's Tower south of Draenor, the Dark Wizard's Tower west of Falador, or the Wizard's Guild in Yanil. However, just south of Ardoin, there's another structure marked on the map, ominously just named Necromancer. The Necromancer's Tower is home to a few unique characters, including the Necromancer monster, who can summon zombies to attack the player. On the top floor there's a named variant, Invrigar the Necromancer, who's strangely weaker than the basic one. The Necromancer's ability to summon zombies during combat is pretty unique, and these monsters spawned are only found during these fights. On the ground floor we find Invrigar's apprentice, Erwin Fieselbaum, a young student who's notably shorter than the average human NPC, who mentions that the necromancers have in-game reasons for respawning. They can resurrect themselves using their abilities, and that it's down to him to tidy the tower every time there's a battle. There are a few more oddities found here, like a bookshelf which can't be searched as it's placed behind a staircase, or the fact that Saradomin emblems decorate shields and rugs, despite the necromancers apparently worshipping Zamorak. The Necromancer's Tower, and its named NPCs, aren't really involved in any quests, clue scrolls, or other notable content, except for a single Master Hot-Cold scroll. It seems like more was planned for the area, maybe a quest involving Invergar and his apprentice, but was never implemented. The closest we come to a quest involving the tower is Scythic Ints, a necromancer who lives just north of the Wizards Guild and is involved in the Zoga Flesh Eaters quest. He has a necromancy book in his room, and searching a bookcase on the ground floor of the necromancy tower will show that a book is missing on loan to the Wizards Guild. Likely the very same book. You'd think with necromancy getting a larger focus with Arceus's spellbook, the necromancy tower would be involved in some way, but for now it seems to serve no real purpose, just an obscure part of RuneScape's world. The wilderness is one of the most interesting places in the game. Once bountiful fields with long green grass and trees, now scorched black, barren and haunted. Every location in the wilderness is interesting in some way. The Bandit Camp, Dark Warrior's Fortress, and in the far northeast, the Wilderness Volcano. This strange location seems to tell a story. A shipwreck is beached on the low slope of a small volcanic peak, which in the centre houses a small wooden bridge and an anvil sign on the minimap. The volcano is used for forging odium and malediction wards, the two wilderness shields, but other than this serves no real purpose. However, this volcano, found deep in an evil land with black, burned earth, in the centre of which lies a forge, parallels another volcano in fantasy, Orodruin, or Mount Doom from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. This volcano, found in the land of Mordor, was where Sauron forged the One Ring in secret at the Crack of Doom, and at the end of the story is where Frodo and Sam along with Gollum destroy it in the fire. While the parallels between the two are obvious enough already, if we take a gold ring into the Wilderness Volcano, we can see one of my favourite Easter eggs in the game. If we use the ring with a volcanic forge, a goblin will appear for a second, shouting, "Precious!" Obviously referencing Gollum, once a breed of hobbit but corrupted by the ring into a goblin-like creature, who attacks Frodo at the Crack of Doom, biting his finger off to take the ring. Elsewhere in RuneScape, there's a similar reference to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings with recruitment drives Sir Lee. One of the challenges the player faces during this quest is to defeat this knight, apparently blessed by Saradomin so that no man may defeat him. And it's true, he won't take the final hit if you're a male character. However, he didn't read the fine print of his blessing contract with the God of Light, as the protection is literal. No man may defeat him. If you switch your character to female at the makeover mage, or a female already, you are able to defeat the knight. This is most likely a reference to the Witch King of Angmar, the leader of the Nazgul, who was the focus of a prophecy that he would not fall by the hand of a man. In Peter Jackson's films, this is even more explicit, and when the Ringwraith faces Dernhelm, he claims that
No man can kill me.
However, Dernhelm is actually Eowyn of Rohan, and with the help of Merry and his dagger of Westernesse, is able to defeat the Witch King, just like how a female player is able to defeat Sir Lee. But RuneScape isn't just filled with references to other fantasy worlds. Its own universe is interesting in its own right. Elsewhere in Falador, up the stairs in one of the houses near the entrance to the Dwarven Mines, we can find a familiar face. The mysterious old man, who normally only appears to the player during random events such as the maze and mime events. Before it was removed, the mysterious old man was involved in the Strange Box random event. The man appeared and gifted the player a puzzle box which rewards them with a small prize. If ignored, however, the box would have duplicated itself over and over until it takes up the entirety of the player's inventory. A random event which was deliberately designed to catch out early bots. But now, with bots being advanced enough that random events don't stop them, the mysterious old man relaxes in his house in Falador, apparently trying to solve one of his puzzle boxes and wanting the player to leave so he can run himself a bath. Another interesting old character is Hans, found in Lumbridge to the southeast. Hans spends his days looping around Lumbridge Castle, never changing his little circuit around the building. He's actually the oldest character in RuneScape, the very first character designed for the game, and as a result, is able to tell a player the age of their account. An interesting side to Hans's character is his cowardice. If the player announces that they're going to kill everyone, Hans will panic and run away backwards before returning to normal. Using this, the player can scare Hans multiple times in a row to force him further backwards than normal, away from his position circling the castle. He can be scared back all the way to around this point, halfway to Draenor Village, before he'll stop moving. If he took one more step, he'd be the furthest from home he'd ever been. Just like the references to Lord of the Rings, RuneScape references another fantasy series, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. In the bowels of Taverley Dungeon, players can fight Cerberus, guardian of the River of Souls, a colossal, three-headed hellhound which requires a Slayer level of 91 to fight. Among other items, Cerberus drops the Smouldering Stone, used to craft the Infernal Axe, Harpoon and Pickaxe, as well as the Primordial, Pegasian and Eternal Crystals. She's obviously a reference to the Hound of Hades in Greek mythology, who shares the same name, a three-headed dog which prevents the dead from leaving the underworld. However, RuneScape's gigantic hellhound also references another monster inspired by the Greek mythological creature, Fluffy, the three-headed dog from Harry Potter. Purchased by Hagrid from a Greek man, Fluffy was used to guard a trapdoor leading to the Philosopher's Stone, by lying on top of it. And as a nod to this, below Cerberus we can see a trapdoor, just like Fluffy's, and the Hellhound's drops of various enchanted stones, especially the Smouldering Stone, matches Fluffy's guarding of the Philosopher's Stone. Lastly, in another of RuneScape's dungeons, there's a slightly calmer nod to yet another fantasy series, my favourite game series of all time, The Legend of Zelda. In the Stronghold of Security, the labyrinth where players must avoid increasingly powerful monsters and answer questions about account security, we can see the skeleton of a long-dead adventurer, known as Dead Explorer, who appears to have been slain by arrows. This explorer wears a green pointed hat, identical to that worn by Link, the reincarnating hero of the Zelda series. Not only this, but his examine info reads, "He looks a bit past it," likely referencing the Super Nintendo Zelda game A Link to the Past. Enlightened's journey is a quest which takes place largely on the religious island of Entrana, a small civilization where any form of weapons or armour is forbidden. This island is home to August, a monk who, yearning for more in his life, has invented a new mode of transport, the hot air balloon. August is named after Auguste Piccard, a Swiss physicist and explorer famous for his balloon flights and study of the Earth's atmosphere. Auguste Piccard had a twin brother, Jean-Felix, who was also notable for his work in science. These twins are the namesake of the captain of the starship Enterprise in Star Trek The Next Generation, Jean-Luc Picard, a man of science who travels the cosmos to further humanity's knowledge of new life and new civilizations. And this spacefaring Picard is actually referenced by RuneScape's Auguste, who features the same hair, as well as an homage to the Starfleet uniform, black shoulders, a comm badge on his left breast, and even 3 pins on his collar, though this would mean commander rather than Picard's rank of captain. Regardless, Auguste is a great reference to one of my favourite sci-fi series, The Next Generation. A tinderbox is one of the first 2 items given to a new player on Tutorial Island, a steel box used for lighting fires. But as you saw in the thumbnail, a golden tinderbox is actually an obtainable item in-game, along with a golden candle, key, pot, feather, needle and hammer. These rare, solid gold replicas of common tools and items are obtainable only during the Priest in Peril quest. When replacing the golden key with the iron key, the other statues can be examined too, each housing a different golden item. And just like how the player swaps the golden key for the iron, they can swap regular versions of the rest of the items for their golden variants. Unfortunately, as cool as it would be to light a log with a golden tinderbox as the last action before 99 firemaking, these items don't function like their regular counterparts. You can't light fires with the tinderbox, craft with the needle, or fill the pot with flour. Their descriptions make this clear. They're replicas made of solid gold, but not functional. Despite this, they're among the cooler little obscure items in the game. The wilderness is a blackened wasteland, inhabited by revenants, skeletons, demons, dragons, killer clouds, and mad scientists. But there are less malevolent characters in the wild, such as the Cape Merchants, strange men who hunch over, weighed down by the weight of their merchandise, team capes. The Cape Merchants are named William, Ian, Larry, Darren, Edward, Richard, Neil, Edmund, Simon, and Sam, which fittingly spells out wilderness. One of the most common animals in RuneScape, kept by various farmers across the world, is the humble chicken, found almost everywhere, even in Mauritania, where they appear as rotting, skeletal fowl. Killing a chicken always rewards bones and raw chicken meat, occasionally feathers, and very, very rarely beginner clue scrolls. However, if you've got a poisoned weapon, poisoning a chicken will cause them to squawk, flap their little wings, and lay an egg instead of taking damage from the toxin, which is a little detail that most people won't ever see in the game. In 2009, a new minigame was added to RuneScape, found west of Uglog, near where the Myths Guild is found now in Oldschool, Mobilizing Armies. Mobilizing Armies was sort of like a real-time strategy game, where players control units and wage wars. Since it was released in 2009, it doesn't appear in Oldschool, and has since been removed from RuneScape 3. However, it is referenced. Lord Marshal Brogan, a strange man standing near a campfire, says that he's looking for a good place to mobilize his army. This campfire sits by the southwestern shore of the Feldip Hills, where the Mobilizing Armies camp was added. And finally, just east of here, we find the Corsair Cove, a port town inhabited by various pirates who suffer from what they believe to be a curse, actually a poisoning, during the quest The Corsair Curse. Corsair Cove is found in the exact same location as a different settlement in RuneScape 3, Uglog, the focus of the quest as a first resort, where Balnia, a businesswoman and the daughter of the Dragon Inn barkeep, opens a spa. As a reference to this, there's a woman found in Corsair Cove, Madame Coldarium, who according to a tweet from Mod West is actually Balnia's mother, the wife of the Dragon Inn barkeep, a nod to the fact that Corsair Cove is found in the exact same spot as Uglog. She's even trying to set up a spa facility in Corsair Cove, stood next to a hot tub with bottles of rum conveniently stored in holders. Talking to Madame Coldarium reveals another reference. When she says, "Good morrow," if the player replies with, "I guess so," she'll ask what's wrong, and the player replies with,
"It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere,"
which is one of Anakin Skywalker's cornier lines from Attack of the Clones. The Wilderness Bandit Camp is a small town in the western side of the wilderness, a land without laws, government, or safety. Built strategically to use the natural environmental barriers as defense, thick walls surround part of the stronghold. The rest defended by a marshy lake and lava pools, making access difficult. As its name suggests, the bandit camp is inhabited by bandits, overseen by Donnie the Lad, Speedy Keith, and Black Heather. In addition to bandits, there are 3 shops: a Cape salesman, Fat Tony's pizza shop, and the Bandit Duty Free, ran by Notarazzo. This shop is a simple general store, like those found all over RuneScape, with one exception. It sells items at lower prices and buys them at higher. Speaking to Notarazzo reveals that this is because the shop, located deep in the wilderness, is spared the taxation that other stores are subjected to, because the taxman won't come out to the camp fearing for his life. 2 other general stores work in this way. Martin Thwaite's Lost and Found in the Rogue's Den, and the West Ardoyne General Store, ran by Chadwell. If the reason behind the bandit camp's lower prices and more generous offers is that the taxman can't reach it, it'd make sense that the same's true for the Lost and Found store, a sort of underground black market, and the West Ardoyne General Store, found in the quarantined western half of the city, cut off due to the threat of a plague, which is actually a hoax. Haystacks are found all over RuneScape, especially near farms. They don't have many uses, mainly used for the creation of scarecrows, but if a player searches one, there's a 1 in 10 chance that they'll find a needle within, a reference to the phrase finding a needle in a haystack. But more rarely, there's a 2% chance that when searching a haystack, the player will find a needle but be unsuccessful in taking it, instead pricking their finger, taking 1 damage. So in RuneScape, it would be entirely possible for a hardcore Iron Man to lose their hardcore status from searching a haystack. So let's try it. Meet Haystack Boy, my Lumbridge farm locked hardcore Iron Man. After recently looking into the mechanics of hay bales, I decided to up the ante. No trading, just hay. All leading up to eventually losing my hardcore status in the lamest way possible, to a haystack. I went to the hay bales outside of Lumbridge on a hardcore Iron Man, and after losing some fights to goblins, actually died to a hay bale, losing my hardcore status and rights to wear the slick red armor in probably the lamest death possible for a hardcore Iron Man. The Motherlode mine, found in the depths of the Dwarven mines, is one of the easiest ways to level mining, by chipping away at ore veins for pay dirt and cleaning it in water to reveal ores, and rarely golden nuggets, which can be traded in at Prospector Percy's store for the Prospector Kit, as well as various other helpful items. The Motherlode mine actually hides a fair few bits of interesting trivia. One miner has a peculiar examine info. Secretly, he'd like to rescue princesses and eat mushrooms. This is obviously a reference to the mushroom-devouring, princess-saving Super Mario, who shares the blue-red colour scheme and mustached appearance with the miners. And finally, the captain of this little mining operation, Prospector Percy, has a strange examine text. He smells a bit. This seems odd until you consider a character with a similar appearance, Toy Story 2's Stinky Pete, also known in the film as the Prospector, a miner toy who serves as the antagonist of the film. Mod Reach, the designer for Percy, confirmed this in a Reddit post in 2014, claiming that Toy Story 2 was on TV the night before he designed the Prospector of the mine. What's the most useless item in RuneScape? Excluding quest-related items, there are a few strange ones, like the Eye of Gnome, found or sold on Apatol, which you'd think could be used in herblore like an Eye of Newt, but isn't. The Tile, too, is a strangely useless item, found at spawn locations in the wilderness, but without a purpose. Well, one of the most interesting useless items is the Paramaya ticket, which can be bought from the inn in Shiloh Village. To purchase it, the player has to ask if there's anything for sale, and then pay 35 GP. The ticket allows access to the top floor of the inn, the dormitories, where there are 2 bedrooms. But there's nothing up here, despite costing money and an obscure item to access. Well, unlike the Eye of Gnome or the Tile, there's a reason for the Paramaya ticket's obsoleteness. It was used just in RuneScape Classic, where players had a fatigue stat which increased while training, capping at 100%, at which point players would stop gaining experience and have to rest. They could rest in sleeping bags, hammocks, or beds, and the better the bed, the faster the fatigue would lower. The Paramaya ticket is a relic of Classic, allowing players to access the dormitory in Shiloh Village, where players could once rest to lower their fatigue, now entirely obsolete. In the south end of Gutanoth, the Ogre City, we can find one of the strangest objects in RuneScape. Near the chieftain is a chest, which can be opened by the player once every 3 minutes. The chest rolls a random loot table, either an emerald, a rotten apple, or bones. However, it doesn't always roll an item. It can, for whatever reason, spawn NPCs, rats, spiders, scorpions, or even chaos dwarves for apparently no reason. But despite how weird this chest is, it pales in comparison to an object found in the VLD caves in the Karazi jungle. These caves are used during Legends quest, and after completion are mostly obsolete. However, in this cave are barrels. With the examine info, strangely there's a locked barrel here. I wonder what's inside. And strangely is the right word. I'm pretty sure these barrels are the weirdest objects I've come across in RuneScape. The player has the option to smash the barrels, which results in one of a few things happening. These outcomes can be relatively mundane, like the player failing to break the barrel reducing their attack level, or even the barrel exploding in their face, dealing minor damage. But if the player does successfully break the barrel, let's see what happens. Yeah, that's a moss giant in a barrel. For some reason, breaking open a barrel will spawn items or enemies from a massive list. The items including, but not limited to, runes, prayer potions, food, fish, knives up to rune, pickaxes, darts, gold bars, logs, ores, caskets, unpowered orbs, and even our friend the Paramire ticket. And as for enemies, we can find Chaos Dwarves, Black Knights, Dark Warriors, Deadly Red Spiders, Scorpions, Giant Rats, Bats and Spiders, Dark Wizards, Hobgoblins, Muggers, Skeletons, Zombies, Deathwings, and even Hill Giants or Moss Giants. You can run around the room smashing these barrels and things can get pretty ridiculous, with this massive army of different monsters all aggroed on you because you let them out of their barrels. Why they spawn such a huge variety of random items and NPCs isn't explained. The barrels in this cave are, without a doubt, the strangest objects I've come across in RuneScape. Let me know in the comments below if you've noticed anything stranger. The city of Varrock is home to the most amount of pubs in any city in the game. Not including the underground Rat Pit Bar, there's the Dancing Donkey Inn, which is a neat reference to the prancing pony from Lord of the Rings, as well as the Jolly Boar and the Blue Moon. If you ask the barkeep of the Jolly Boar if he's heard any gossip, he'll say that he heard that the Blue Moon's bartender has gone crazy, claiming he's part of an online game. This is true. The Blue Moon's bartender breaks the fourth wall. If asked where an adventurer might make his fortune, he'll reply that he doesn't think he should answer as it'll make the game too easy. The player questions this, and he'll reply that the whole world around them is part of a game called Oldschool RuneScape, or just RuneScape in RS3, existing online between connected magic boxes. RuneScape's soundtrack has always been one of my favourite aspects of the game. Insanely charming, memorable, and for most players nostalgic themes. One of the best, if only for a little secret found within it, is Norse Code, which plays on the Fremenic Isle of Yatizo. The theme is mainly comprised of an accordion, with a flute playing the main stop-start melody. However, fitting with its name, Norse Code, this high flute melody is actually Morse code, made up of short and long notes. This Morse code spells out RuneScape. In a previous episode, I covered that if you poisoned a chicken, you'd find them strangely immune to the toxin. Instead of taking damage, they lay an egg. However, Ben Renator left in the comments that another farm animal shares this poison immunity: cows. Apparently, cows aren't immune as part of a little joke like chickens, but because on the tick when they would normally suffer poison damage, they moo, which takes priority over poison damage. I tested it out, and it does seem that cows are immune to poison, and they did tend to moo when I'd expect poison to hit. So it's possible that this is true, but I can't say for sure. This doesn't work for players, however. Thanks for watching this video. If there are any references or trivia you'd like to see in an episode, leave it in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already for more RuneScape content, and I'll see you next time.